Hi everyone, I've received a question from user ETHDaman1985 who writes, "Hello Lee, I just watched your video entitled, 'Hey Atheists, no evidence of God's existence, so what?' In your video, you make the claim that a theistic claim of existence is different than a scientific claim, which seems to be a fair enough point. However, I'm curious as to how you reconcile that with your apparent belief that all truth claims are tested by empirical means or scientific inquiry. If the two claims are very different, then why would you expect us to be able to scientifically test for evidence of God's existence?" Well, thank you for the question. Quite frankly, I laughed a little when I read it because I used to say the same thing when I was a Christian. I used to say, if God is supernatural and science only tests the natural, then how can we possibly test for God? Well, while you can't possibly test for God, you can possibly test for when he interacts with the natural world. One great example, you can just Google this right now. You can type in scientific test power of prayer or scientific test prayer. And it's testing the idea that prayer can heal people or change the outcome of events. They typically do this with people that are sick. They have some kind of difficult to cure illness. And they'll separate them into two groups. One group receives no prayer, one group receives prayer. And sometimes the group knows they're receiving prayer, sometimes they don't know they're receiving prayer. And then they test, what happens? Do these people get any better? Do they get worse? Is it about the same? So you can scientifically test God's interaction. Another issue here, though, is that you said that I have an apparent belief that all truth claims are tested by empirical means or scientific inquiry. I guess I have to ask you a question, too. Do you believe things without evidence? If you do, will you believe me when I say, yesterday I caught a leprechaun and I made a wish to go to Neptune. We went to Neptune, we ate some delicious food, and then I came back here unharmed. Do you believe that? Probably not. I'm going to guess you don't. If you do, disregard the rest of this video. But if you don't believe that, why don't you believe that? You don't believe it because it's ridiculous. You don't know leprechauns exist. How could I go to Neptune and not die? There's no food on Neptune. What am I eating? How did I magically transport there? All of this completely violates your understanding of the world, of physics. And that's why you don't believe me. So why should I believe you when you make the same claims? When you claim that your God performs miracles, that your beseeching your God changes the physics of the world, changes biology, changes the outcome of events. How am I supposed to believe that? When you make these claims, and you make these claims based on your religious experience and your religious text, how am I supposed to believe you knowing that people of any other religion make the same claim? I had no idea how similar religion was until I became an atheist. I can tell you right now that Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Wiccans, Sikhs, Buddhists, they all claim the same thing, that their religious text is accurate, that it is factually correct. If there's any kind of prophetic things in there, they claim that the prophecy has happened, it's come true. They make these claims that their God is, or gods, absolutely exist, that prayer or spells or beseeching absolutely work, that as long as you follow these codes or commandments or laws or rules or regulations, your life is going to get better, your life is going to get easier, and you can have this feeling that you're more one with the universe or one with nature or one with God. And these people claim that they've seen miracles, they've had these things happen, they've heard the voice or voices of their God or gods, they've felt their presence. How am I supposed to take that seriously when you don't give me any information that's tested, any information that's factual, that we see as factually true, and you all claim the same thing? Or what about when people who have the same religion claim different things? I've met Muslims that say you have to live a strict life that is living by the Quran. I've met Muslims that say it's okay to live the middle path, where some things are okay but only in moderation. I've met Muslims that just say, yeah, I don't care if you have premarital sex or, go out drinking. It doesn't matter. You can do that and still be Muslim. I've met Christians who they get together and they pray for something and pray to be moved by the Holy Spirit, and they all said that they felt the Holy Spirit and they were all moved by the Holy Spirit, and all of their conclusions are completely different. And then they start accusing each other of being liars, that you're lying and that you're not a true Christian, and they get into this big argument. So even people that follow the same belief system don't come to the same conclusions. So how am I supposed to take what you say seriously? And that's the nice thing about science. Science is not some weird conspiracy or anything. Science is a tool. And it's just a tool to be objective. That's what it's for. It's because our own perception cannot be tested, or trusted, I mean, most of the time. A great example of this is an optical illusion. There's that optical illusion where there's like 3 bars, but they look to be different lengths. But if you test them with a ruler, if you take a tool and test it with a tool, the tool is objective. The tool doesn't have this perspective to deal with, this forced perspective that makes things seem bigger and smaller. So if you test it with the tool, you're objectively able to see that these are the same length. If you looked at it with your own eyes, you could not tell. But if you use a tool, you can. And that's the thing. There's a lot of issues with human beings where, you know, we're pretty great, I think, but there's a lot of flaws with how we perceive things. And even things like being tired, being hungry, that can radically change our perception of situations, of emotions, and just how we respond to people. Even people that we like, people that we don't like. Maybe you're naturally just a wonderful person, but if you're hungry, really hungry, you just become a total asshole. There are people I know that are like that. There are people I know that are super sweet, wonderful people, but if they don't get enough sleep, they become just grumpy and just weird. There are people I know that they're the opposite. They're absolute assholes, but if they don't get enough sleep, they become really nice. Even your own personality cannot be trusted. Your own feelings cannot be trusted. Now, I'm not saying that I live this weird robot life, you know, but I will say that if there's a situation and I find myself upset, I find myself emotional about a situation, I look at something more objective. I ask myself, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? What happened today? Am I already a little bit irritated? Another one is for people that are trying to lose weight. My Twitter feed is just full of this. And people say, oh, I feel like I've gained weight. I have this friend who's got this eating disorder and she feels like she's gained weight. Well, I say, well, test it. Measure yourself, weigh yourself, put your clothes on, test smaller clothes. You can test it. So she is emotional because she feels something. But her emotions can be wrong, and in fact they were recently. She weighed herself and she actually had lost weight. But this whole time, for weeks, she had been complaining that she gained weight because she could feel it. She emotionally knew that she gained weight. But the reality was she didn't. That's just another of many examples of why humans should use science. And again, science here is just objective tool, an objective tool to test whether something is true or not. So when you tell me that you have a religious claim, I'm still going to ask you to prove it is true. I'm going to ask you to prove it is true because if you don't, I have no reason to believe it. So I hope this answers the question. If it doesn't, or if anybody has been inspired to ask other questions, feel free to post it in the comments section. You can post it to my channel, or you can send it to me via personal message. But as always, thanks for listening.